Yo, what is going on, guys? This is Ryan Buck from the We Live for Sports podcast on YouTube. Also, the Football Fanatics show, also on the same channel, actually, the We Live for Sports podcast channel on YouTube. I don't know our Twitter handle in my head. I don't know it, but you can also find us on there. I know Eric put that on his podcast, and these should be uploaded on YouTube soon. We're currently kind of doing these podcasts on the which you can find in the App Store. It's called Anchor. It's a podcast app, and I'm not sponsored by it, but it's an app that, you know, if you're looking or interested in starting a podcast, you should check it out. So, again, it's called Anchor. You can find in the App Store. That's what we're currently using. This is my first podcast. Eric did his podcast earlier for the first time as well. It's kind of good because we're so used to doing podcasts together. You know, in my basement, actually, is where we have our podcast equipment. But we haven't been able to consistently upload because of how busy our schedules actually are. With college, with work. Eric works at Kohl's, so his work schedule is inconsistent. Sometimes he's working 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes he's working at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's all inconsistent, so we can never get a schedule where we can kind of consistently upload videos. That's never an option for us. So we figured we'd use Anchor, and we're going to try this out. We're going to try to put out videos more often because sometimes, as much as we'd love to do the videos together, we're going to have to individually upload videos here and then. And again, we also plan on doing a lot of things on this channel. We would like to get hockey videos out there. We have a couple people that we know that are, actually a lot of people that we know are into hockey, diehard hockey fans. I'm not a diehard hockey fan. I do like hockey, so I will be, doing hockey videos as well. We want to get baseball out there. We want to get basketball out there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and Anchor is going to be a good way of helping us get, more content out there. Again, as much as we would love and as much as we'd like to do videos together, it's not always an option for us. So again, I'm sorry, we're 2 minutes into this video already, and I haven't really started the video, but I figured I'd just, talk about that stuff so you guys know what the future plan is for this channel. But today, I'm going to be talking about the New York Jets. Okay, Eric did a video earlier, recapping the LA Chargers. I almost said San Diego Chargers. I had to catch myself. The LA Chargers. He did a draft recap for them. That's his favorite team. Now, my favorite team is the New York Jets, as you might have heard on previous videos. If you haven't checked out those videos, go ahead and check them out on our channel. But the New York Jets is my team. Now, James is, possibly going to do Packers draft recap as well. Kind of all just doing our favorite teams because we know the most about our own team. I'm not going to say I know a whole bunch about the Cincinnati Bengals or the Tennessee Titans. I know a lot of their players, but I'm not going to act like I know them, a lot. I know the Jets, third stringers. I'm a diehard Jets fan, okay? Again, I could name their third stringers, fourth stringers, okay? So, without further ado, though, the New York Jets 2019 draft. Let's get into it. Quinnen Williams with the third overall pick. Now, the Jets for months tried to trade down. Up until draft day. Even the Bills came in. There were reports that saying the Bills were interested in trading up to pick number 3. That didn't happen. We also had, we were also related to the Redskins. People said that the Redskins and Jets could possibly trade. That didn't happen. The Giants were involved in discussions with the Jets as well, but they never traded. I don't think they're ever going to trade again. It's like the Red Sox and Yankees. They don't trade. Giants and Jets are the same way. Even though they're not in the same division, they're New York rivals. They're not going to make a trade together. So the Jets pick Quinnen Williams at 3. This guy's a beast, ladies and gentlemen. He is 6'3", 295 pounds, and that might sound undersized. But I think people are, thinking of the prototypical defensive tackle. They think of run stuffers. Quinnen Williams can be a run stuffer. Excuse me. But he is much more than that. He's going to get to the quarterback. He's going to get to Tom frickin' Brady. I know Jets fans want to hear that too. Quinnen Williams is not an edge rusher. He's an interior rusher. but he's going to get to the quarterback. It was never about finding the edge rusher. It was finding the guy who could get to the quarterback and get that sack. We are all sick and tired of Leonard Williams, who is the master at almost sacks. And then you'll hear fans making the excuses, oh, Leonard Williams almost got the sack. He's always getting double teamed. No, people, Leonard Williams has not lived up to his potential. He has not lived up to the expectations of what people said, oh, he's the best player in that draft. That has not happened. Hopefully, Quinn Williams can help that, because people are saying he's the best player in this draft. Some people are. I think Nick Bosa is the best player in this draft, but he wasn't available at 3. And the Jets weren't trading up to number 2 to get him. They were just fine with Quinn Williams falling into their lap. Quinn Williams definitely has the potential to be the best player in this draft, and he's going to be compared to Nick Bosa for a long, long time, not in terms of their arsenal or what they do. They're not going to be compared as a player, but they're going to be compared in legacy. Who was the better player from that draft at the end of the day? 10 years from now, who's the better player? That's how they're going to be compared. Both of them, they're going to make their own cases. Both of them are very, very, very talented players. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to seeing Quinn Williams, going out there and planting Tom Brady in the dirt. I'm looking forward to it. Again, people keep saying they're concerned because Leonard Williams, Henry Anderson, and Quinn Williams are all defensive tackles, mainly. But this will work. Are you really going to bet against Greg Williams, a guy who's been in this league for a long time, who's one of the craftiest, smartest defensive coordinators out there? He's going to make it work one way or another. All right? I trust it. Okay, Quinn Williams, Leonard Williams, Henry Anderson, it's all just going to be fine. And it's going to be even better because of the guy who I'm about to talk about next, who they got in the 3rd round. The 6'2", 242-pound Jachai Polite out of Florida. This guy, at one point, was getting mocked as a first-round guy for a while there, all the way up until the Combine. Now, the Combine was what kind of made things shaky for him. He has character concerns. He had a bad Combine in general. Bad 40. Bad cone drills, okay? But when you look at the film, you take all of that Combine stuff away. You just look at the film. This guy looks like he has the potential to be a first-round player. Now, along with that, he's going to have to come into this league with a chip on his shoulder. I think the spotlight is on him. All these teams passing on him. He's going to want to prove them wrong. I think the pressure is more on him than it is on the Jets. If he doesn't pan out, I'm not looking at the Jets and saying, oh, well, the Jets shouldn't have picked him. Bad pick by the Jets. Bust. Okay, I'm not saying that. This is a low-risk, high-reward type move. Anytime you can get a guy like this in the 3rd round, you're getting great value. Low-risk, high-reward value. I think the spotlight and the pressure is going on Jachai Polite. He's got high expectations, being by all these analysts saying, oh, well, he's a first-round guy. Prove it. Go out there with a chip on your shoulder and prove it. All right? You had 11 sacks last year in 13 games for Florida. Do it in the NFL. Prove all those teams who passed on you multiple times, prove them wrong. Also in the 3rd round, this was the trade with the Saints the Jets did with Teddy Bridgewater going to the Saints. The Jets got this 3rd round pick, and they chose Chuma Edoga with it. I like Chuma Edoga a lot, actually. Now, I know people wanted to see a center go with this pick. I get it. No one wants to see Jonathan Harrison starting day 1. It's going to happen, people. And I'll tell you what. I think the center position is the least impactful position on the offensive line. If they can snap the ball, they're serviceable. If they can snap the ball consistently, which Spencer Long could not do. If Jonathan Harrison can go out there and consistently give that ball to Sam Darnold where he can make, passes on time, and his snap isn't affecting Sam Darnold, that is good enough for me. Jonathan Harrison played when Sam Darnold had his best weeks down the stretch. I trust Jonathan Harrison. He's not the best center in the league. He's not the worst. You got to go tackles and guards. I think those are the more impactful positions, especially tackles in today's league, with all the elite edge rushers that there are. Chuma Edoga out of USC, former teammate of Sam Darnold at USC, now current teammate of Sam Darnold with the New York Jets. This guy, he was graded as one of the best pass blockers in this draft. Now, he stinks at run blocking. Or I said pass catchers. I meant pass blockers. Sorry. He stinks in the run blocking department, but we have Le'Veon Bell. This guy can break tackles. I'm not worried about Le'Veon Bell. He's going to make himself look good, whether the offensive line, of course he would be better with the Steelers' offensive line, but he's not going to be bad because of the Jets' offensive line. Sam Darnold is young. He's inconsistent. I'll admit it. Sam Darnold is not as consistent as Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold, he needs time to throw to guys like Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, Jamison Crowder, Chris Herndon. Get a pass blocker in Chuma Edoga in the third, a guy who has a pro comparison to Kelvin Beachum. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. A Kelvin Beachum pro comparison, and you get him in the third round. Great value. Great value. These first 3 picks by the New York Jets, I love. Now, the first one, I'm not loving it. I'm not so sold on it. Trevon Wesco. This guy's out of West Virginia. He's 6'4", 274 pounds. I'm not totally sold on him. His first 2 years, actually, his freshman year, I guess, I'm looking at his stats. It's a sophomore, junior, and senior year. He actually had stats. He must have had a freshman year where he just didn't do anything. Because his stats start with a sophomore year where he had 1 reception and a touchdown. His second year, 1 reception, no touchdowns. It was 1 reception for 1 yards. But it was his senior year that he really came along. He had 26 receptions, 366 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now, those aren't amazing numbers. They're not screaming starting tight end. But we have Chris Herndon. This guy is a tight end too, which is totally fine. The reason I'm concerned is because I believe we could have gotten this guy in the 6th round. Okay, maybe even the 5th. I think we've reached on him. And I think there are better tight ends available. I'm not hating on Trevon Wesco. I think he can be a really good blocking tight end, and I hope he takes Eric Tomlinson's place. But I don't know if he's going to do that year 1. I think this is a development pick. The Jets went with a lot of raw players in this draft, but they're buying into their potential. What can they bring a year or 2 from now, or 2 years from now? That's what they're looking for in Trevon Wesco. I believe the guy's name is Baldy. His nickname on Twitter, he called him Baby Gronk. Now, I'm not going to go calling Trevon Wesco Baby Gronk. I'm not going to be doing that. Heck no. That's a lot to live up to. But to see an NFL analyst have that kind of optimism towards this guy, it's good to hear. It's good to see. It's good to hear. But again, I need to see it to believe it. I've seen too many times where the Jets taking guys like Ardarius Stewart, Chad Hansen, Nathan Shepard last year, Foley Fatukasi, guys who just haven't panned out. Dylan Donahue. Speaking of Dylan Donahue, he was an inside linebacker that didn't pan out. And the next guy, Blake Cashman, is an inside linebacker out of Minnesota. Now, actually, I don't know why I said speaking of Dylan Donahue, because I believe Blake Cashman's a much better player than him. I don't even want to compare him to Dylan Donahue. That is a big, big disappointment if he was going to be Dylan Donahue's talent. If he was as bad as Dylan Donahue, we have a problem, people. Now, Blake Cashman, 6'2", 235 pounds, as I said, out of Minnesota. He played there for 4 years. Last year was his best year, 104 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks. He's an undersized middle linebacker, but the production is there. And in the 5th round, you don't necessarily go with team need. At this point, you're going with the guy who has the highest ceiling, who has a lot of potential, a guy that you think could be a hidden gem in this draft, right? A diamond in the rough. That's what you are looking for in guys like Trevon Wesco and Blake Cashman. Now, again, the moment they drafted him, I was like, why go inside linebacker? You have a guy you just brought in, C.J. Mosley, on a huge contract, the highest paid middle linebacker in the league. You have Avery Williamson as well. You brought Avery Williamson in last year. He had a good year, great year. Close to being a Pro Bowler. And you have Darren Lee, who you took in the 1st round a couple years ago in 2016. Actually, it might have been 2015, if I'm mistaken. I think it was 2015. Could have been 2016 though. I'm getting confused. I think it might have been 2016. I think it was 2016. I think he's done. They're not going to cut Darren Lee, and they might keep him another year, but they just declined his 5th-year option. He's going to be traded, if anything. If he is going to go, he's going to be traded. And a trade that I saw a couple years ago was Calvin Pryor for Demario Davis. So we could, see a very similar trade, a player-for-player trade. Darren Lee could just be straight up swapped for another player. Maybe a corner or safety. Marcus May, he's been injured quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they just did a player-for-player swap. So, that's kind of where I'm at with Darren Lee. But Blake Cashman, again, I think he's going to be a special teamer day one. But I'm hoping he can mold into a player that can be a starting linebacker and a good rotational guy. A guy who's not, someone who's going to be a bad player when he goes out on the field. A guy who's not a liability was the word I'm looking for. If he can go out there, because we're running a 3-4, you're going to need depth at inside linebacker. That's why they brought back Neville Hewitt as well. You're going to need a guy like Blake Cashman to step up. He was a team captain in Minnesota. He knows how to step up. He was a team leader there, and he's going to bring that to this team, leadership. Those are the kind of guys you want in your locker room as well. You see it all the time at the Patriots. They bring in great locker room guys. Okay. The last pick for the New York Jets was Blessuan Austin. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce his name. I'm guessing it's Blessuan. Blessuan Austin. Okay, you can tell me how to pronounce it. I'm not actually quite sure. But he's a local kid, Rutgers. He's going to be staying in New York by going to the Jets. I'm not a big fan of this pick. Now, I heard on Twitter, because there's not a lot of film that I can watch on him. Very, very, very little. So I kind of had to go to Twitter, and some people were saying, well, before his injury, he was a 4th round, 5th round guy. I think they're just being a little bit optimistic. That's if he even stays healthy. This guy's been injury prone. I could only see him being a special teamer, if not a practice squad guy. And I don't even think he'll be on the roster in year 3. I think he's, very much alike to Justin Burris. Not in the sense of play style, but in the sense of talent. The level of talent they're at. I don't think he's that good. And Justin Burris didn't even get year 3 with the Jets. He's on the Browns now. So, and he's got a competition. Tremaine Johnson, Brian Poole, Darryl Roberts. They could still bring back Morris Claiborne. And we got Perry Nickerson as well. We got Rashard Robinson, who they traded for last year. Or 2 years ago now. They've got, no great corners, but they've got a solid amount of depth there. He's going to have to go out there and compete. All right, and I don't know. He could just be a practice squad guy. again, it's a late round pick that they're going with and saying, we're buying into his potential. Cool story. Local guy. I don't know. I'm not buying into it, though. I'm hoping this Jets draft can turn out. I'm giving it a B- for a grade. Because, again, I've seen too many drafts where, you're so optimistic and you have so much hope. And then that team, or the draft just doesn't turn out in favor of the Jets. And then, 3 years later, you're looking back at the draft and you're calling it a joke. So, I like to be optimistic. I really do. I like to be as optimistic as I can be. But I've seen too many times where I've been wrong. Let's see how this draft, plays out for the Jets. But until then, guys, I can't. I'm giving it a B- because there are players that I would have picked over some of the players that they got. I would have never picked Baswan Austin. I would have never drafted Trevon Wesco that early. I get why they did it, but there were other players I would have done instead. Now, for Quinnen Williams, Ja'Kai Polite, Chuma Edoga, and Blake Cashman, I absolutely love those picks. Great value at, the pick they got them. Great value. So that's why I'm even giving it a B-. They didn't have too many picks as well. They only had 6 picks, so it's kind of hard to, I'm just grading it on those picks. I wish they had more picks. I wish they could have traded down, but Quinnen Williams is a great player, and I'm not complaining. And I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you guys for tuning into this podcast and listening. Again, this is the We Live for Sports podcast on the Football Fanatics. Or no, this is, I just got that totally wrong. You believe are the Football Fanatics show, and the channel is called We Live for Sports podcast. Totally sorry about that. I think we're going to be going on Spotify soon, too. Again, we're recording this podcast on Anchor, which, again, you can find in the App Store. And you guys, if you want to do your own podcast, you can. It's very quick and easy. But with that being said, thank you guys for joining and listening, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.